Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I am your host and GM, Mitch Broesder. You can find me on Twitter at MagnesiumB. You can find the show on Twitter at Standard Risky. You can also always find us over on the show's Discord, where we're posting inspiration images, character sheets, dumb memes, great YouTube videos.
Inspirational images as well. So you might see like some cool AI stuff I'm working on, doing a lot of pictures of like Jesus on the beach.
In a mech.
In a mech as well. Well, I assume you guys have read the Bible. So yeah, obviously he's got the mech.
And that's the dulcet tones of Pete Loftus here with us tonight.
That's right. It's me, Pete. Feeling good. Dug a big hole in my backyard today, so not crazy or weird at all.
We've got Malcolm Hall here tonight as well.
Hey, how's everybody doing? I just want to be the first, I think a round of congratulations to the boys. First to Mitchell, GM, for getting engaged this past couple weeks.
Ex-girlfriend, but we're very excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Tim for winning $700 at the Mukilteo Resort and Casino in Auburn, Washington.
Yeah, baby.
Big money.
Congratulations. The gambler always wins. And congratulations to Pete for your big hole.
I hear that a
lot. And lastly, we've got the gambler himself, big money Tim Mans.
What's up, gamblers? Let me just take this moment to say, if there are people in your life who are telling you things like, don't go to the casino again, stop spending your money at the casino, we don't have the money for you to spend at the casino, don't listen. The gambler always wins.
Cut those people out of your life immediately.
Yeah, cut those toxic.
You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. No, but just kidding. The number will be in the show notes if you need help and are problematic gambler.
That's Tim's personal number. He'll help you get better.
Yeah. My number will be there. Call me anytime or day or night.
That's the other thing that's crazy from the
my
last
girlfriend
intro
loves
I was
it.
just listening to. You read out just a real ass phone number at one point.
If you've got a real phone number, head on over to the Discord, post that in there.
Today we are continuing our campaign of Beam Saber by Austin Ramsey. As always, you can find Beam Saber over on Austin's itch.io page. Link to that in the show notes as well. And yeah, why don't we get into it? So we are jumping back in. Last time we were all here, we just started a new round of downtime coming off of our exciting train heist at Blossom Path. And so that last session of downtime saw Carta, the help of Desmond, step up his campaign against the Grenfield Corporation in Coronatus with great success, but at a cost, gathering the attention of Wager Felbar, the sort of right-hand man of Grenfield's CEO and their sort of head of security for their illicit operations. Meanwhile, out in the basin, headed out towards the outer dust, Rhodes accompanied the dust cutters' journey to find the former Concordat thaumaturge named Abel Selkirk, who might just hold the key to helping Rhodes better understand the nature of the Redshift and its frightening fundamental abilities. And so we actually only got through one downtime action last time. That was Carta's long-term project, this sort of escalating campaign against Grenfield. So we have a fair amount of downtime actions to get through tonight. Pete and Malcolm, or Rhodes and Desmond, both have 3. Tim, you've got 2. I know the mechs all have taken a bit of a beating from the last mission. There's some stress to take care of, some of that stuff. And so I think before we get right into that, I figure we probably, we left, kind of our last image was Rhodes, having been left by the dust cutters, kind of finding his way through this valley out in the western reaches of the basin. And it was a valley covered with the iridescent, grayish, bluish lichen, that dust moss, this kind of plant that seems to have some kind of fundamental connection. It was intertwined with the vines in Blossom Canyon, and they were kind of blooming in reaction to fundamental nature. And they are coating this pathway that Rhodes has walked down. And when we last left, you'd kind of come into the valley to the site of this sort of almost bucolic, right? There was a home built out of like an earthen mound. There were triops kind of grazing freely, fields of this dust moss spreading around. And as you had arrived, an elderly man with a shock of white hair and these kind of simple gray robes had come out, had greeted you, Rhodes. I think you had drawn a gun on him, and he had addressed you by name and kind of invited you down into the house for tea. And so I think we'll, probably pick up right back there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, we don't think we should pick up something that exact moment. Does Rhodes go down? I guess is the question, right? Does he enter this valley?
I think so. Like what? So Selkirk kind of just turns on his heel and about face back into the house.
Yeah, I think he, if I remember correctly, I was listening to it earlier today. The thing he said specifically is, you've come all this way to see me. You're not going to kill me now. Come on down. The tea's almost ready. And so his home is this big kind of earthen mound. It's, its sides and top also kind of dominated by this outgrowth of the dust moss amongst the other like natural grasses that are there. I think the entrance to it is probably just kind of like a canvas covered kind of hole in this earthen wall. Like I said, it's in this kind of like recessed little like valley. This kind of like almost like a little meadow that's like kind of right in this like valley, foothills around it. And he turns, he goes through the split in the canvas and disappears back into this little hobbit home.
Yeah, I think Rhodes kind of just is sort of surprised, that quickly kind of dismissed and on his way. And I think still holding the gun kind of just, well, damn it, like holstered again and I guess kind of just hurry up. I'm going to follow him in.
Yeah. And so, as you walk down, into this valley, I think there is the trilling of the triops. And we talked about it before, but I can bring the detail back up because it's been a while. You've got this kind of spidery network of quicksilver branching out from this like stab wound that you received from Hyacinth when you were in this kind of mirror space, this kind of fundamental like subdimension, wherever it was that you followed him through that portal to. And like I said, as you walk, it's almost as if it's like a bit of psychedelia, right? Like it's the dust moss is breathing in and out gently. And with each, exhalation, it's almost like the beat of a heart in this quicksilver in your chest. And I don't think it doesn't intensify, but it stays present as you come down into this valley. And as you approach this hut and come in through the split canvas, pretty decent sized little building, fired clay on the inside. And I think the first thing that strikes you is that this interior of this little place is also full of flora. There are different kind of plants. A lot of them you recognize instantly as native Imberian plants. Definitely lots of others. In hanging potters along the walls, there are terrariums of different kinds. And I think a lot of them you notice too growing, alongside or symbiotically with this dust moss, right? Or grafted into it, in the same way that those vines were growing amidst it in Blossom Junction. In fact, I think you see there is like a terrarium that is, creeping up the sides of it are those same vines that you saw in Blossom Canyon growing out of the dust moss, and they bloom as you enter the room. I think there's like a big workshop table near the back of this kind of a studio layout. I think it's just like one big large room. There's not, I think, like a lot of separate little like nooks and crannies here. There's like a workshop table. It has kind of different pieces of broken down machinery on it. Some of them with that distinct, white ceramic that marks Concordat technology. I think there's also, probably on that table, and I think that there's a pang in your chest as you see it, right? I think there is like a large glass beaker, like a sealed beaker with a small piece of what looks like that same quicksilver, that this like sort of a mercurial metal that Hyacinth uses, right? It is, and it kind of swirls and reacts almost like a ferro fluid, right? As you enter the room, right? It pushes against the glass and then slides back down. It reacts to your presence.
I like that, like an ampule, like it's all sealed in there.
Yeah. I think there's a smaller table, like kind of in towards the middle of the room. And Abel Selkirk is standing next to it. There are, 2 cups laid out on saucers, and he's got a kettle or a pot of tea that he has just pulled off the burner of a stove, and he is starting to pour a cup for you and for himself. He looks up at you with a small smile.
Yeah, and I just want to add some color to that. I'm at the point of coming down this trail in the little psychedelic valley here. I'm R-Crumb walking my way into the hut.
Keep on trucking, Rhodes.
Yeah. Hey, whoa. I think would enter, I guess, taking a little survey here. Like, obviously, we kind of covered some of this. I guess I'm a guest here, right? So I'd sit down. I don't know what it smells like, but,
Deeply floral, right? Not bad. Right? I think there's like kind of a heavy scent of like vegetation, and then also like there's like I think this is like some kind of spiced tea, right? Probably there's like a little, like it's the fragrant smell of the tea mixed in with, just this kind of like floral vegetal scent, right? There's like a lot of, like I said, plant life in this room.
Mhm.
He would be, it looks like a botanist's home, if more than anything else.
Sure. I think just kind of taking in the scenery would say, you're the Mendicant? You'll have to forgive me. I was told to prepare for a thaumaturge.
They have called me that. It's an outdated term, a nod to my spiritual predecessors. There are no mendicants anymore, truly, but I carry on in the spirit of their good work. Iconoclasts, heretics by the Concordat's measure.
But they let you live.
Let is not the choice of words I would use, Rhodes. So much as they let you live as well. And he comes and takes a seat at the table. You've come a long way. Please sit, drink some tea. We're in no rush. I've been a long time coming here myself.
How long?
And, I think he's got like a little bit of like a, like it's a little bit of like a smirk, like a little wily old smile. And he says, I'm not quite so old as you are, but I'd give you a run for your money. You might be surprised. And I think, I think you see him like kind of rack his brain for a moment. It's like going on 150. Although I, be honest, I've had times where I don't keep as close a track as I ought to have.
He's human?
He is a human. He is as far as you can tell, like a pretty normal looking old human man.
I think giving him a once over kind of up and down, right? So you're not an easy man to find, which is a bit rare in these parts. Seems like our paths would have crossed by now.
As you're well aware, Imber's a good place to go and escape the public eye for a while. I think you did something rather similar here yourself.
Fair enough.
And, I think he sits down, he starts to drink a little bit of his tea. Let's get to the fundamentals of it, as it were.
Wink.
Yeah, right?
Well, it's like, whoa, hang on. So, evidently you know who I am. Maybe you can tell me why I'm here.
I think you feel something now, and you're more attuned to this right now because of the recent experiences you've had with like the Redshift, with your time with Hyacinth in this mirror place. But you feel like another presence at the edge of your own mind,
like the same as before.
But it's not that immensity. It's not that like behemoth that you felt when you were kind of like connected to the Redshift. It feels more like an equal or a peer. It is like someone, it's like when you're standing shoulder to shoulder with another person, or when you feel like another person kind of peering over your shoulder. Not this giant, sort of mass, but just a person kind of looking over your shoulder. And Selkirk says, you're here because you have questions about the Redshift, about the place that you're from, and I think maybe about what's happening here, why I'm here, why the Concordat is here, what brought Hyacinth here.
Well, you are certainly informed. Well, I can't really dispute that.
I think I want to address, a layer above the fiction here, which is that, like, you are with someone who has, like, a lot of answers about the world right now. Someone who has, like, a lot of knowledge, can answer a lot of questions for Rhodes. But there is, I think, like, a question of, like, why should he or would he want to? And so I want to, like, I think there's, like, kind of 2 ways we could, like, think about this a little bit mechanically. One of which is, like, I think, we're in downtime. There's an opportunity here, which is, like, a new long-term project for Rhodes, right? And I don't know exactly how you would want to formulate that. We could talk about it. All right.
Sure.
But it could be worked on by, being here, talking with Abel. But you also now, as of the end of the last mission, you have 2 drive clocks. And one thing that you can do with 2 drive clocks is you change the life circumstances of an individual. And I think if you wanted to, you could spend that drive clock here to change the life circumstances of Abel Selkirk such that he does want to talk to Rhodes. Because we are kind of encroaching on stuff that relates to you completing your drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like your drive is specifically, what was the wording again?
Uncover the true nature of the redshift.
So, before we get too much further down this road, I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, we can also play it out a little bit more too, if you don't know what you want to do yet.
I've got a couple ideas here.
But I think if you want those real answers, I think it's probably either a long-term project or it is spending a drive clock here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I'll get into it with him for a second, I guess, but out of game or meta game anyway. I'm going to try and see if Selkirk can heal this Quicksilver affliction, or at least draw the poison from the wound. And one of my other ones I was thinking of here is, like, whether that's a long-term action or not, I guess the conversation is going to lead into whether or not Hyacinth can be killed and how to kill him. And I was kind of thinking that might be like wanting to try and like get a shard of the particle lance to like a handheld size or something. So anyway, we can get there, but that's kind of what I got up front.
Maybe that is like a good, maybe it's like, as you're like kind of starting to talk here, maybe it's like a wince from Rhodes as like a particularly painful pulse of this Quicksilver happens. And, Selkirk's eyes are drawn to it. And I think he's had like a pretty light affect this whole time, but I think a more serious look crosses his face. We should deal with that before we talk much further. I wouldn't care for any outside observers.
I think even that startles Rhodes a little bit. I think glancing down, I think would probably kind of just heave off some of this defensiveness, but right? It was like, well, Selkirk, if you know me, then surely you know of him. The Looking Glass Knight, Hyacinth Corn.
I know of you both very well. You are well-documented figures in the history of the Concordat's ongoing expansion. The Redshift is a mighty prize, has been for a while amongst those who care about the lost relics of the Concordat.
As I've come to understand, something happened recently, which brought me to you. I passed from this world and into another, or was taken there, sent there. I don't know.
First, your shoulder. And I think Selkirk, gets up and he starts rummaging through like the gear on the tool table at the back. I think it's probably this is a recovery roll to get rid of this, to work on this Quicksilver affliction, right?
Yeah.
Selkirk is going to be a tier 3 healer for you. Is 3d6 to roll if you want to work to like heal your wound.
This is the Quicksilver is like spreading from the shoulder, you said?
Yeah, you were stabbed by this kind of like mirrored
I remember
knife.
now,
yeah. Yeah, and it is. Yeah, and it's similar like when you have like a like blood poisoning, you see like the red vein spreading out.
Oh, I hate getting blood poison.
But this is like that, but the infection spreading is this Quicksilver that is like branching along your circuitry out of this kind of jagged wound. And I think, Selkirk draws out like I imagine it's a tool that almost looks a little bit like a wand, honestly. So this like ceramic handled thing that has like a sparking end. And, has Rhodes come to sit by the workshop table. And I think as he starts to, prod at this Quicksilver, it like recoils back, right? It kind of like pulls off of you. And he holds his other hand over it as he's kind of using this tool. And as he like moves his hand near there, the Quicksilver's kind of pulling off of you, almost like a strange insect rising up off of you, pulling out of you. And he seems to be kind of holding it in place with his other hand, not touching it, but, almost like playing like a theremin or something, right? As he moves his hand, like an unseen field kind of guides and moves this Quicksilver around. So why don't we roll a recovery action, which is, it's going to be 3d6, and this will advance your recovery clock.
Okay.
And once you've filled 4 segments on the recovery clock, your harm will go down a segment.
Rolling 3d6 now. Is it painful?
Yeah, probably very painful, I imagine.
Yeah, okay. Thought so, right.
Yeah, this fucking sucks.
Yeah. Because it's like bonded with you on like a semi-molecular level, and so he's like kind of conjuring it out of you as he does this.
I imagine it's excruciating. I got a 5, a 1, and a 3, so
that fills 3 segments of that clock. If you want, you could spend a personnel here to... sorry, that fills 2 segments of the clock. So if you want, you could spend a personnel here to bump it up by 1, which would give you 3 segments, or you could do a second recovery action to try and like fill that clock and actually bring it down. As of right now, you still will have the level 2 harm, which will give you -1 dice on certain rolls, kind of related to the fiction of that, whenever we are back like in the shit.
I think I'm going to leave it.
So I think he's able to like collect a certain amount of it off of you, right? He kind of stops the spread of it, but I think you've still got this kind of like mirrored gash, like right in your kind of like upper torso. And I think, he takes, like both hands kind of like holding the mass of the quicksilver that he has removed, like levitating between his 2 hands. He carries it over to this kind of glass beaker that has the rest of that, uncorks it, and then, with a gesture, guides it down into there and reseals it. And this kind of removed quicksilver merges with the small bit of it that he already had in storage. And then I think he picks up just like a rag off the table, drops it over this kind of glass beaker so that it's covered from sight. And as he turns to you,
the hell is this shit?
Mirrors are like eyes for him. I'm sure you've realized that by now. You've been fighting each other a long time.
Is it bad if I haven't? Is it permanent?
I think he narrows his eyes, looks at like this remaining wound. You won't want to let it stay that way. We can work on it more later, but you should be feeling a little better now, I hope at least.
Yeah, I think he like loosens his shoulder up, There's probably like, wherever this like kind of circuitry pulled up, I'm thinking about like when you tear like ivy off a wall or something, you can still see like the weird outline of where the vine was.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe he's just kind of like rubbing it. I don't understand. I think like, just kind of rolling with it, I guess, right? Like, this machine, this frame, the redshift, it's kept me alive more times than I could count, but it's as much a curse as it is a gift. I once, wielded this certainty of power, but I can't help but wonder if it wielded me. What is this thing? Why do they want it so badly? And, when we passed through, when I chased Hyacinth through the portal, I couldn't help but feel like I
think he moves back to the table with the tea, and he sits. He takes a long sip of it, and then he looks at you again. Do you believe that the ring and its revolution can succeed? That they will stop the endless tide of the Concordat, their fundamental prowess? And he's looking at you very closely now.
Here on Imber, I don't know that we're winning this war. I don't know what will be left to win.
Not just Imber.
I don't know. I guess it depends on which part of the galaxy this builder's looking at. In some pockets, sure. In the shadows, maybe. I've been fighting this war for most of my life now. More than a century. For all that's in sight, the struggle just stretches on past the horizon. So if that's what winning looks like, yes, we've won. The struggle will continue past the end of this war and into any other. I think the ring will constantly be under threat. And I like to imagine I served as its guardian for some time, though I'm starting to wonder if I'm not strong enough.
He nods, kind of face impassive. And I think that's the rub here. I think if you want answers from him, there's a question of mechanics. How do you want to get them?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm really I'm just going to keep like riffing, I guess. But on the other side, I felt something, and I felt the redshift call out, looking for something, calling to others. I don't know. And I've heard echoes call back. But this felt different, real, frighteningly so, I suppose. And it sort of clicked into place for me that it wasn't just that I stole their property. It's that I think this machine may be not what I assumed. It felt like it belonged there. Selkirk, I don't know. I've lived a long time. I'm an old man and I don't get rattled often, but I'm at a loss. I know you know. I need your help.
I mean, is this the drive clock? Are you burning it here?
Yeah. Is it all of them? I worked so hard for those.
Yeah. It's 2 drive clocks to change 1 person.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Spend 1 just to make a roll happen, to change a little bit of chance, but it's
No, let's do it.
He listens, right? He doesn't say a word while you say all of this. I think he motions for you to take a seat again across from him. I don't have all of the answers for what your redshift is. I am not all-seeing, by far not all-knowing. Would have been a very different life if I was. But a long time ago, they called me the Paladin of the Forgotten Letter. I was a combat librarian. I had access to the old books, the old archives. I've read about your machine, about what they found there.
Was he on Feldspar? Is that what he's saying?
No, he was. No, he's too young. Feldspar was gone by the time that I was in the archives, but I think he would ask, do you know, are you familiar with the idea of a forge world? They are the prize gem of the Concordat's legions.
Is that what Feldspar became? Is that a forge world?
It's what Feldspar was. They are rare, scattered across the cosmos, across the galactic network. Semi-artificial worlds, relics of the First Era, each of them designed for production. There are worlds, entire cores, empty, hollow, save for the bays of ships that they produce ceaselessly. Others, war machines, like the one you pilot, like the one Hyacinth uses. Each different, but special in its own way. They are the most cherished possession of the Concordat. Feldspar, so far as I know, was one of these. Each of them operated by their own vast artificial intelligence. It's not quite the right word. It's entity, maybe. Something bigger than us, broader than us. Something old. And he looks at your gear, right? The Black Star constellation symbol on your jacket. Not unlike your apparatus. Things that don't think like people do, that aren't quite like people are. Most of them have hummed along for eons, doing the thing that they were designed to do. Yours, Feldspar's, did something different. And he, gestures at you. You are an aberration in a usually perfect system, Rhodes. You, Hyacinth, those you grew up around, normally these things do not produce synthetic paradises. They make weapons, they make machines. Yours decided to experiment.
I think, I don't know if there's like a light in here or something, but Rhodes probably at some point is, like looking at his own hand, right? And he's like, doesn't that make me a weapon?
Do you feel like a weapon?
Most of my life.
Who am I to guess at the motivations of an ancient eldritch machine? And I think, Selkirk would be very honest here. He'd tell you, I can't tell you what the redshift is. If you had it here, perhaps we could take a look under the hood.
I think this is like Rhodes would go like, oh shit, right? Like, and then this is like the like snap zoom, right? Like follow the camera up the valley and down this like whole path back to there. And it's like, oh fuck, you're right.
But what I can tell you is the Concordat came to your world following old maps, expecting another place of industry. They found a paradise, and they did what they do to it. And you escaped. Do you know what happened after you left? I do. I've read the books. They destroyed Feldspar. Do you know why?
I think like struggling a bit here, right? Because I think this is like a very sensitive note to Rhodes, right? Rhodes didn't save Feldspar. Hyacinth didn't either. I think like, if that hand was open earlier, I think he just kind of tightens to a fist and says no.
The planet itself rose up against them. It struck at them. Bases sunk into the earth. Trees unfolding into weapons. It tore apart what they had built there, and in response, they burned the planet to cinders. Were you a weapon? I don't know. You're something special, certainly. Unique. I think your redshift is as well. And then he reaches across the table towards you, kind of putting his hand out, and he asks, do you know what's here? What's on this planet?
That damn orichalcum, and a whole lot of it.
And I think he almost looks like disappointed in the simplicity of the answer, right? I think you're smarter than that, Rhodes.
Wait, you mean Imber is a forge world? How could that be? It's barren. It's a dry, dusty rock.
I think he shakes his head, right? Not quite that, but it's I think they built something here. or they were building something here. The orichalcum runs deep, a lattice, a network, he shakes his head for a moment, a circuit board, a map, a machine. It operates, or it would have operated. It didn't finish. It is... You can feel it. There's not a mind here. It's an unfinished machine.
And if they finish it, what's not to say it's an ally? Maybe it would fight back. What if we finish it?
He smiles, like big smile, a grin. And he kind of gestures around the room, right? And again, there's this dust moss everywhere, right? It's growing. It's been like symbiotically like grafted onto other plants, and I think there's like an almost kind of like, it's like you've asked someone about the thing that's like their favorite thing to talk about. You can see the age almost melts away a little bit. It's
so.
I think the thing they did killed this planet. They took the fundamental life of the place and transmuted it into the orichalcum that lives under the surface. They sucked it dry to build something in a way and on a scale we could never hope to do. But something went wrong. And I think he gets up, he totters over, he brings one of these terrariums with the dust moss back, and he places it on the table in front of you. And he points at it, and he says, "This grows in every single part of the basin. The only part of Imber that is not dead. It, and he reaches out and he grabs your hands, right? He presses your hands against it. And I think you can feel that like throb in your chest again from like where the quicksilver is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little stronger. And it's like a pulse. It's like a beating. And, he's smiling. It feeds off of the fundamental energy that radiates out of the orichalcum here. It fixes it. It sets it in place. It stops the thing below us from sucking it all up.
Give it to me. Like, does he have the terrarium? Is it an open top?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right.
I think Rhodes is going to reach in and take some of this dust moss, like whatever's happening here, and like if I put it on this quicksilver wound, like will the dust moss take to it?
Oh yeah, for sure it does, right? Actually, as you bring it towards the wound, the quicksilver, like little branches of it, like brachiating like veins kind of rise to meet the dust moss.
Yeah, I can see that. Like they're like kind of reaching out to each other, but I think it's like almost like a last, like it's almost pulling it in, right? Like it's almost like it chunks to the wound here. I think I can feel it, right? Like that pulsing. I think
like it gets stronger. Yeah,
and I think like wherever that spread kind of was before, I'm imagining this dust moss kind of uncurling kind of down from the shoulder and I don't know, halfway down the arm or something. And I think like Rhodes can feel it, and I think is even kind of like testing it out.
And I think Selkirk continues here, right? As this is happening, he's like talking still. He's
right.
Getting up, he's gesturing. I think he says, if the Concordat can finish it, if they can make the machine work, they will have accomplished their terrible purpose. It will be the end of things. But I think that we could use it a different way. This dust moss, this beautiful thing is an accident, but it is a happy one. I would like to stop the Concordat, but I do not believe, brave and as naive as they are, that the ring can do that. And, I think, again, right, like there's this kind of like manic energy to him now. What is the thing that the Concordat want more than anything? It is to find the builder. It is the thing that guides them is religious fervor. They want the builder because of what the builder promises, a paradise. We need something to inspire a different kind of fervor, a new entity, something that can turn the tide, that can balance the scales. In the same way that the dust moss here fixes Imber, we could fix the entire galactic network if we were to use it properly.
Then we'll start. We'll start now.
And maybe that's a good moment to cut here and then go back to the other.
Yeah, that was cool. Not what I was expecting.
Not at all.
Interesting though. That was my bad. I shouldn't have. I just like had the idea and I jumped at it. But I think makes sense. Selkirk explaining it and then putting it on.
Yeah. No, I think that works. I like the idea of him.
Wait, would he have known that would happen?
Maybe. I think he'd probably have a pretty good guess at what would happen. Yeah.
I just, again, and how the game is played, but like if he knew that, he would still just try to pull it out with his wand.
Well, it'd probably kill me, I guess, if it was in there too long.
I think it's still not good to have the Quicksilver in Rhodes. Like the dust, it's an interesting reaction, probably, the dust moss. I don't think he knows exactly what's going to happen if you put it there.
Okay.
I think he has if there's like one person who knows about the kind of fundamental nature of this dust moss and what it is capable of doing, it is Abel Selkirk. But I think there are still mysteries for him to explore in this world.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Like he said, a happy accident, probably.
Does that do anything for my harm?
Hell, you know what? Why not?
We can figure that out mechanically, but like...
actually, yeah. Before we cut, let's clear that harm. Let's start a 6-segment clock called, just call it Dust Moss now, right, for now. Or Dust Moss Integration. And let's go ahead and tick 1 segment on that.
Synthesis or something?
Dust Moss Synthesis. That's I like that.
Cool. Interesting.
I like that. Yeah. Like, it reacts kind of wildly, right? Yeah. Like growing and spreading as you like kind of attach it to this wound. So yeah, I think that's a good place to cut away. We can return to Rhodes and his time with the weird wizard of the West. But I think it'd be good, to cut back to Des and Carta, back in Coronatus, living that city life. The timing is a little loosey-goosey here, right? I think the time that Rhodes has spent traveling and seeing Abel Selkirk is like during that time, the events of like last session have elapsed. I don't know if we're still like in sync timeline-wise or not yet or whatever, but, this is after the tragic death of Quint Selector. You have like kind of successfully shaken the cage of Grenfield. You know that Wager Felbar is now in Coronatus, is kind of more actively monitoring the actions of COG, the coalition opposing Grenfield.
Against Grenfield.
Against. I'm never going to not think against. I almost say it every time.
I do almost every time.
You're anti-Grenfield, against Grenfield.
Yeah. But, you guys both have some downtime actions to still work through.
You were saying that with the semaphore still having the damage of shredded, that still needs to be repaired. That didn't clear, even with the breakdown?
No, because that was... because the damage doesn't clear from breakdown. Just your quirks got refreshed. So you still have the physical damage of shredded from when Hyacinth redirected one of your own rifle rounds through the semaphore.
Right.
So that would require using, because it is a level 2 one, level 1 harm and damage always clear at the start of a new downtime session, but your level 2 damages don't.
Okay.
And so to fix that one, you would have to use a downtime action that I actually don't think that we've had to use yet, to my recollection, which is the fix. And so to fix a vehicle, you can roll engineer. If you lack a workshop, it costs 2 stress to fix your vehicle as you lack the proper equipment. I don't know if we have a workshop or not.
Ooh.
I thought we...
You don't. You have a scrapyard.
Yeah.
Which gives you plus 1 dice.
That's not that different.
Yeah, that's...
You guys don't have a workshop. Although you guys do have 2 squad upgrades that you've not used yet.
One of them's a workshop.
Yeah, one of them is definitely a workshop.
Yeah,
let's call one a workshop for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is like... I'm happy to like roll that into the fiction of just like, so a workshop, it says the FOB is a space filled with tools, materials, and a database such the long-term project, salvage, and fixed downtime activities can be worked on without leaving your base. And, maybe that is like partially, it is like, some of it is like the equipment that you actually found in that cargo delivery.
Yeah.
But it is also like, trading that equipment away, right? Like giving some of those supplies to the Threaded Needle, who are able to like install their own, like their extra, like repair stations and tools and things from the salvage job, kind of giving you what you need while getting what they need to like distribute elsewhere amongst the Rings network, right? And it's also part of this, right? The squad is now, it's tier 1. You've upgraded. You have a better, you have a +2 relationship with your faction. You are more trusted by the Ring. It is this kind of like, as you have grown in importance within the Rings network, you're getting access to better supplies.
Bitter and Zed too are there.
Yeah, Bitter and Zed. Oh yeah. Also, they've been setting up. They've been kind of whipping the FOB into better shape, right? Because they actually they have a vehicle they want to maintain, and then they didn't have a space to do it. So I think it's between those different things. For sure, let's just spend one of those squad upgrades and give you a workshop. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? It's like one of the many disused hangars within the complex that is Low Tower. Gets slowly transitioned into a functioning workshop.
What is the workshop if not a scrapyard persisting?
I mean, having a scrapyard certainly helps you stock the workshop, I think. So do you want to do that? Is that where we want to come in?
Yeah, I don't need to even. I feel like I don't even need to spend too much time in the fiction doing it. It's just getting it back up and running. I think Carta's got a lot of other things on his mind, and he knows that coming up, he's going to want that in shape for any other future actions against Renfield.
Yeah, it works kind of basically the same way as the recovery clock does, except you are rolling engineer to work on your mech, and whatever your roll is, you have a repair clock, and that will advance segments on the repair clock. Once you have filled all 4 segments of the repair clock, your damage will get downgraded to a level 1 damage.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to just apply that other squad upgrade while we're here?
Yeah, we can. What do we? Yeah.
I kind of think we should start taking any of these extra ones we have laying around and putting them into public works.
Ooh.
You get 1 heart to your rep track. You can have up to 6 public works. This location supports the locals, so they have your back.
Ooh, that sounds good. I like that.
So maybe it's we increase our footprint here.
I mean, it definitely works for what Carta's looking to do, and
right.
Trying to get people.
Here's an idea. What if it's the first of these public works is Carta is training a militia or a sleeper cell or something?
Well, yeah, that was actually funny you say that. That was going to be kind of me taking what would be my third and final downtime action of doing some training, either whether it's going to be some kind of command, leading people so that mistakes don't happen as much like they did with Quint Selector, or training in Wreck. We're going to come in and just
you're
bombard people. We are
training a sniper unit in Wormtown.
Yeah. So whatever that is, but I'm not opposed to that. I don't know if Des has any kind of ideas he was working with that he would want to spend that squad upgrade on.
No, I trust your judgment on that.
So that will make it easier to get the squad up to the next tier, to tier 2. And maybe that isn't, I thinking about it infrastructurally, maybe this is opening up some disused portion of the tunnels underneath Coronadus and turning it into a training range or something, kind of outfitting it to give you a place to practice with these people, out of the public eye.
Yeah.
If that's what you guys want to do, I think we can just knock that out here.
I'd say knock it out. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So with those done, do we want to come in on, we're in the workshop, Carta, I think on the background, Zed and Bitter are working on the aero lifter. They are just some minor repairs and maintenance after your recent mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Dez also has some damage to Mercuria. Are you also going to work on doing that here?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of did it we did it in the fiction last time, but
yeah. Well, we did you did upkeep on your quirks last time.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I think this is
I have a crushed limb.
Yeah. That was maintenance that we saw before. This is a repair job. So why don't we?
All the boys in the workshop, Coronada's version of Bruce Springsteen bobbing, as we.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a fun cut, right, from this kind of hermit's hut to the industry and machines working, right, the war machines being repaired. So yeah, Carta,
Steel Town Girl on a Saturday night.
Do you want to roll fix here? That would be engineer.
Yeah, so just roll 1d6, I guess.
You
could I use Zed or Bitter as cohorts or whatever to help boost that?
You absolutely could. Yeah. So that would give you one extra dice. That would be 2d6.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. 2d6 rolling. 2 and a 4.
All right, so the 4, that is 2 segments on the repair clock. That is not enough to fully downgrade your damage yet. You could spend another downtime action here, or you could spend 2 material to get you there.
How many material do we have?
You have 2 in the tank, and then you have 2 unassigned supply points that could be material.
I'm gonna say that I think I'm gonna leave it for right now. I feel like those material points will be beneficial in other places more than it is getting this fully dealt with.
Sure. And is Desmond also, we're working on fixing Desmond's mech?
Yes.
So Des, I'm looking at your sheet. I realize you have no engineer.
Oh.
But I think that this could be, Carta could do that work for you on your mech in the same way that like other characters can act as doctors. I think Carta could be the one doing the repairs if you're okay with that. But I am curious like if that's like like Des asking for help repairing the mech.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. I think that like this whole thing is like, he can do small repairs, but this is way out of his league.
Yeah, it's like pretty serious material damage.
Yeah.
It's like one of the limbs, the Mercuria, was crushed by the centipede last time.
Can you just replace it with the Caesura arm?
Oh, that's a fun idea.
Oh yeah,
pretty
I want
wild.
to do that.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Okay.
One of those spare Caesura arms
We have a
around.
scrapyard and a workshop now, so that definitely feels within your wheelhouse.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. Yeah. So in that case, and presumably Zed and Bitter are still like assisting here, right? They are like, especially with this like salvage part of this, right? I think they're like.
Well, actually, I should be clear. It is omni pedal, so it doesn't have to be an arm.
Yeah.
You could do whatever you want.
I could do
really.
a leg too. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we get the shot, of like Carta like moving the scaffolding over from the semaphore to the Mercuria, right? Like Zed and Bitter bringing out like a hover cart with like the disassembled Caesura limb, like that ceramic plating. Like
I think it's an arm, if I remember correctly, because I think the pincers crushed it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so and he was like, putting the arm up, and the pincers crushed it to defend himself. It was a defensive wound, so they're bringing out the Caesura arm, a right arm.
Yeah, Carter, you want to give us another 2d6 there? See if you're better at fixing someone else's mech than you are your own.
Yeah, and if I am, it's only because I want to make sure that Des knows that sometimes having a team on your side does help. 6 and 5.
So that gives you 3 segments on the repair clock, Desmond.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to spend a material here right now, that will complete it and it will downgrade your damage.
I will spend the material.
Nice. So we'll complete that. And so I think this goes from crushed limb. I think let's get rid of that. And we will give you instead the level 1 damage. I think just new limb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's less now about like a damaged limb, and it's more about the fact that it's like you're getting used to like the responsiveness of like the new parts and like how they work.
Yeah. Like will it take,
Yeah. Cool. So that's a 1 downtime action down for both of you. And like what's going on? Give me the vibe, what's going on in Coronatus? What's going on with the Black Star the two of you who are not on this kind of like hippie retreat. Like what are you guys up to?
I mean, I think Carta is both, it's that weird balance of like you are so like I don't even know if there's the word for it, but like it is sad from losing a friend because like Carta has like shot and killed people, but it feels like he hasn't lost a friend or someone he knows in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's that like the sadness of losing someone that like was a friend that he is kind of overwhelming, and he doesn't quite know how to deal with it. So he's like trying to power through it.
Do you feel responsible?
Oh, absolutely. We were kicking the hornet's nest, and they showed up, and someone got stung, and we knew what we were doing, and Carter was so confident that he was going to be able to lead people, and it wasn't going to be an issue because he's the idea he's built up in his mind that he's going to finally get his revenge. He didn't think about there being any kind of casualties on that road to getting it. So yeah, I think right now Carter's kind of just like burying himself and trying to like do minor work with Cog, like anything he can to like not have to sit there and think about like what happened. So I think that's where it is now, and he's going to want to figure something out that is going to make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else who is working with him to keep these missions going.
Is that where this? You said you wanted to do like a training. Is that where this comes in then?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can knock that out. I guess there is in that balance of anger and sadness, he doesn't know, in the rules element of the game, I don't know if it's a command or if it's a rec. He doesn't know if he wants to try to teach all the other people who are joining him on these cog missions more like basic like infiltration skills, as like an infiltration kind of squad and recon squad, like on the basics of like, this is how we work as a group to break into a facility. This is how we watch each other's backs, or whether it's he's going to find people who are ready and angry to be a firing squad and are training people to lay down fire as we like might need.
Well, so that the difference there would be training prowess, which would be include like wreck and struggle, prowl, or resolve, which is where command and consort and sway are. I will say, if you are training prowess, the squad has improved prowess training, so you would get 2 experience there instead of 1. I don't know if that.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know if that mechanical aspect.
It's Carta. I think at the end of the day, even if he's growing and maturing, and is like giddy, really getting the spirit of the community from all these actions and the people that are coming, especially with the new, training facility that we just established at the Low Tower. I think that there is a level of, we're going to return fire. I am going to train these people to wreck, just to lay down that fire. And as it says, like you act with brutal force. You might lift a car off a wounded companion. You might smash through a locked door. You could attack with pure strength, but I think it's just training people to go, go, go. We aren't going to be caught off guard again. We are going in with force.
Like practicing breaching through kind of like plywood, like training structures. I'm imagining.
Yeah. I even like basic, like kind of obstacle courses, how you hop a fence, or get over it when you're carrying a gun, or shattering a window with your elbow and getting a grenade in through it, or whatever. I think it's more practical, just like we're not going to let them hit back like that. We're going.
I think that makes in the aftermath of what happened last time. I think that makes a lot of sense for sure.
I just think at the end of the day, sadly, Carta, not sadly, just that's who Carta is, and it's going to be that. So,
and then mark 2 XP in prowess, and that is your last downtime action. But you still, of course, can spend supply points to take more. What about what's going on with Des? Des, you have 2 downtime actions left. I think you see like Carta going in and out, right? Like leading these like training things throughout the days as time is going and passing. Rhodes has still not returned yet. You are, still taking care of the red shift, but its pilot is still lost in the wind right now.
Mm-hmm. I think Des is seeing Carta doing all this training too, and I think that he's taking the time right now to also do some training. He's also going to train his prowess. I think it's going to be just a pastiche of, I don't know, just kind of like what you would see like in a ninjutsu training of like walking on those like boards, and then maybe some like dry fire practice of like from like a concealed pistol.
Then we bring it all together, and then you're going to be doing it on the boards with the dry fire pistol action.
Are you doing this alongside Carta? Are you joining him in his like kind of like band of guerrilla fighters?
I guess I could be. Would that still count?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I don't know. It's more
we're all training together. I'm like,
I want to know how Des feels about training.
I'm giving them some of my. No, I told you I would help you. I meant it, and I had been helping you, so I'm going to continue to help you. I think that I'm giving some, feedback. You're giving me some feedback. We're working together, and with these people too. We're taking a moment to sharpen our own skills while we teach.
There's something really interesting to me about seeing Carta and Desmond kind of like stepping up to like take on like a more active role in like being leaders and like kind of like teachers in the ring in the absence of Rhodes. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, well, our leader's gone, so we need some.
I also think it's funny because I don't know if Carta necessarily thinks of it as stepping up. It's a necessity.
It's a collective, so there's actually not really a leader, not really a hierarchy. So you guys are doing it just right.
Yeah, that's great. So you're training prowess here as well, Des?
Yes.
So you can take 2 experience points in your prowess track. I really like this a lot. It's a really cool image. Yeah. So you two like and it's like I think there's like some different faces throughout this montage that we see, but I think we do see kind of a core cadre of like the kind of the members of COG who have been like the most actively radicalized, right? Who are like truly interested in developing these abilities, who are showing up like over and over again.
How many in numbers would you say that is? If like just 15, 20? Are we talking
Yeah,
5
right.
to
Let's say
10?
it's like I'd say like 12 to 20 kind of like we are seeing showing up again and again. And, sometimes there are folks who come for like one session of this and they don't show up again. But like I think there's like a kind of a core cadre of like people in COG who have like taken on this more militant, right? This kind of like they are not just members of COG, but they are like members of the ring now, right? They are like integrating themselves into the ring of Imber, not just this like anti-Grenfield group, but this like specifically, they are a part of the ring now.
Cool.
And I think there's this kind of fluidity between those two things, but I think like these are the people who are like becoming committed to the broader vision of the ring and are prepared to fight for it, right? And are convinced of the necessity of that fight in a way that goes beyond just like their particular disdain for Grenfield.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's get down to business.
Second half of the season was a lot like Mulan, which is
Carta adopts a pet dragon.
Yeah, that there's no role for training, but yeah, I think we do get this like this montage of like kind of playing off of like last time, like this like increase in actions by COG. Now it's like these people are especially I think probably right in the wake of Quint's death, right? That has also kind of spurred some of these people to be like,
yeah.
Like in the same way that Carta feels spurred right now, it's like, oh no, we have to like be ready to like really defend ourselves and to take it to Grenfield. It feels like an escalation all around. You guys are driving this bus now. Where do we go from here?
I have some business down at City Hall.
So this is you have your gathered dirt on alloy braithlight project. Is this what we're talking about working on?
Yes. Also, I have some work for my sister I have to take care of.
Right. Yeah. So the last time or the downtime before this, you met with Thea Desdemona and you acquired some like higher grade like bugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not insects, but
Calyx to Junk Merchant.
Yeah, Calyx hooked you up with some like surveillance equipment, and Thea Desdemona offered to help give you late night access to the Coronatus Council chambers inside the region of Coronatus known as the Pillars, the kind of political capital of Coronatus. You wanted to bug Alloy. Alloy, again, a former member of the Belfry Boys, a member now of the Night Flyer Syndicate, who has kind of at least publicly cleaned up their image and become a junior council person in the Coronatus Council, and who thanks to Rebus Actual, has been kind of consorting with the Concordat to some extent. That was like has been kind of like an advocate for them to some degree inside the council chambers. So talk me through, like, what does this look like? What's the play here?
Well, the play here, I think I need help with this. I'm going to ask Carter for help.
Carter responds with no heart, but yeah, I think Carter's definitely in. He feels actually more ready because of the training he's been doing.
Yeah.
Feels like he's ready to infiltrate a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to make the mistakes that have been made before.
I have all the subterfuge supplies for you. I found a janitor's jumpsuit in your size.
Perfect. I was going to ask what's her outfitting.
What's our jumper situation?
I'm imagining like a sort of like dark, like not a dark green, a sort of regular green.
Cool.
Folks at home, it's a regular green.
Folks, that's why we use the radio. Radio is the perfect medium. It's all about telling a story with our words, our descriptive elements.
I mean, you're like, okay, well, is Ranger Green a thing? Hold on.
Ranger Green.
You can put anything on there.
Ranger Green, yeah. They sort of have a fatigue kind of feel to them, and of course, like a little cap, little baseball hat, sort of. I'm gonna wear glasses, I guess. I don't fuck.
I love that the low tower like disguise chest is like every time we dig in there, it's like, what is all this shit?
Yeah,
like a feather boa. There's like a red cap, like glasses.
A lot of jod furs last time, right?
A lot of jod furs, yeah.
Yeah, just a bunch of jod furs and some glasses.
So yeah, I knew you had arranged this with Thea last time. I think that The city council, right, is in the pillars, this kind of like one of the oldest neighborhoods of Coronatus, right, from like the old Chiropteran Empire. And so I think a lot of the structures here, right, it's, I think in my mind, very, like Roman Senate is kind of in my head a little bit, like lots of like, it's called the pillars because there are these like, kind of massive columns. I think a lot of it is crafted out of this like this red sandstone. It is the same material that the Lost Crown Saloon is built out of. I think a lot of like statuary, these kind of like ornamental kind of chiropteran gargoyles, a lot of which have been kind of eroded by like years and years of like the heavy sandstorms that cover Imber. It's worth also mentioning, just as like some color here as you guys are moving through the city and towards the pillars, there's just been a fine grit in the air all week. This massive sandstorm that's been building out in the west, it just like these little micro storms keep spitting off of it and hitting the city, kind of coating the city in like another fine layer of dust. A lot of people are wearing masks and like scarves, I think. Which makes it even a little easier to kind of like blend in. And as you said, or as we said, I think Thea has left you like a rough map with like entrances demarcated as like she's left unlocked what she can to ease your entrance into the building. But take it from there. Let me know what is this.
Well, I think that, we're just going to walk through the front door. Did she give any instructions of where to make our main entrance?
I think it's not. It's like definitely a side entrance, right? And the city council building itself, I think, is this this big, imposing.
We're Arkrum walking into the city council.
That's visual.
Just here to clean up, boss.
Oh, I think like I said, I think there's like a side entrance that she has like arranged to be left unlocked, right? Like normally there's like some kind of like security pad that would require like passes or like a code, and the security settings on them have been disabled. She has like opened a pathway into the building, and I think it's also given you like the location for his office. I think this big building, it is, its exterior is surrounded by this like kind of big array of pillars, these huge steps leading up to it. But I think there are a lot of little like side entrances into this kind of imposing building. I think it's massive because like the heart of the building itself, I think, is a huge kind of amphitheater, right? And so, it's kind of along the edges of the building that like these council people have their own personal offices, kind of like tucked off along the sides, and then it's the center of it that is actually where the amphitheater is, where the meetings of the council take place. I think we've said there are like 100+ council people in the Coronatus Council. It is not like a meeting of 12. It's like 150 council people.
Yeah,
a lot of them are like junior council people who have like less power. There are senior council members, and then there is the council primarch, a woman named Demeter Pollux, who kind of is like the tiebreaker and the person who conducts the business of the council.
Yeah.
But I imagine it's like probably later at night when you are arriving, right? When it is not hustling and bustling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like there's, the sand has gotten pretty thick, and there's like feels like little pebbles sort of hitting all of the glass panes on the inside of the building, and it's very quiet in there except for this sort of very eerie, clinking and plinking every once in a while. And we get in, we carry in a ladder or something. So if whoever's standing by, if anyone's standing by the door, they just let us walk right in. They don't really even suspect anything. I think, we should we split up or stick together? What do you think, Carta?
No, where's this guy's office? Where? I don't know where I'm going. You got to tell me where I'm going, man.
Oh man. All right. I guess there's only one map. All right, let's let me. Oh, hold on. I'm holding the map upside down. Let me get this straight. Okay, let's walk this way. If we see a janitor's closet, maybe we should stop and grab like a broom or something.
Yeah. All right. There's a lot of
sweep.
There's probably been increased janitorial service because dust and sand keep blowing in because of the sandstorm.
Yeah, we've been hired out.
Yeah, I've grabbed a inside like leaf blower that they use just to kind of clear dust off of. So I got that pack on.
And we don't have to do this
So
beat for beat. We can
loud.
zoom out a little here too. This is a
Yeah.
long-term project action. What is the action you want to use to work on this?
Prowl.
Prowl makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think you can take an extra dice here because Carta is helping you.
Okay.
Ooh,
6, baby.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right.
Double six.
Double
Almost,
sixes.
almost a devil's crit.
Very close. Yeah, 4
Very
It's
sixes.
so clean. That blower worked.
Yeah,
I actually get a job here.
yeah.
On site. Yeah. That was incredible.
No, but like, what is this? So that does complete this clock for you, Des.
Okay. Just a montage of us creeping around, going into these various offices, poking around for a place to hide it, tapping, opening up the telephone.
You go
putting a
in and you're
bug in
placing
there.
them. I'm
Yeah.
on the outside keeping watch, but also like feeding wires through, under
Mhm.
doors and
Exactly. We just clean up. We do it so good.
Yeah, and also I think maybe it's just like Alloy's office is like full of like bric-a-brac and like junk and like not junk but like there's like statuary, there's like all kinds of like kind of ostentatious like ornamentation. It's very easy to like hide things in here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think also maybe this is like as you're doing this, you're realizing like Calyx came through. This is like high quality equipment. It is like better than you thought it was when you first like opened the junkety box he gave you. And it'll be difficult to like suss out later.
Yeah, it's like what the thing, the Great Seal bug, that Soviet bug that they gave,
yeah.
that sort of like passive listening device because it didn't use any of its own electrical.
Oh, yeah.
I can hit it with a radio device and listen in, but if you were to hit it with a scanner, it wouldn't come off because it's not. Yeah, it's not actually an electrical thing.
So yeah, but it is the double sixes. That's like a stunning success. Like you pull off the infiltration perfectly, and like it's hard to detect. And so I think what follows then is probably just like days of like listening in on this thing, checking like the recordings. Right, this kind of spycraft is like I think unfortunately full of like a lot of like really boring downtime.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? Long periods of like the office being empty.
he's trying to return something that he bought
Yeah.
over the phone.
But like the first time you hear his voice, Des, I think there's probably like a rush of memory, right? This is Alloy. You hear the voice and you know it instantly. You see that like Luctorian face, handsome. Was back in the day always like the kind of the face for Belfry Boy operations, right? Able to kind of more easily like handle some of your Commonwealth clients as like a fellow Luctorian, right? Had this kind of in that way. And yeah, a smooth operator,
There's just something annoying about them too. I like can't really like what is it?
Ooh, yeah. I mean it's that kind of like self-assuredness, right? I think it's probably what
Cocky.
Yeah. But is able to tamp it down enough to be effective as a negotiator, but like it's always the thing that it rises up. It's hard for them to like turn it off. Every so often, he oversteps, and especially like you're listening to a lot of like, especially right, a council person now. He's got aides and assistants, and when those people are right, he doesn't have to like tone that down when he's talking to them. And a real tyrant, like micromanager of a boss, right? And so I think one of the first things that you kind of pick up, like, in just listening and like, checking the tapes is like, has developed a taste for luxury, right? Rare wines and, like off-world gifts being brought over and over by different Commonwealth companies, right? There is probably like I would say like probably like courtesy of Grenfield at one point there is a delivery of like a fine Luctorian like wine array or something. If you have like specific questions about what's going on here, we can ask them. But I think like the broad overview of like what you kind of get from like we've never talked about you guys having a van, but I just really imagine like in a van like parked like down the street from the. Somewhere like in an alley.
Coronatus Cleaners Dry Cleaning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just at these monitors, like chunky headphones on, listening, right?
We're eating donuts. We're drinking coffee.
Yeah, it's a stakeout, baby.
With real stakeout hours. I get, all of this sounds, it's very annoying, but it's not. It's just not really anything out of the ordinary that you'd expect from any kind of politician, especially like him.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is like for days. It is just like it's graft and it's corruption, but it's like kind of so deeply mundane that it's like, maybe in a different time, in a less like tumultuous time, you could really try and get some kind of like expose going. But it's not the pay dirt you're looking for. And then one day, I think at first you think that the equipment is malfunctioning because there's an arrival and Braithlight's voice is, that cockiness is gone instantly. It's all deferential. And I'm not going to do like blow by blow dialogue here because I don't want to have like a conversation with myself. But like, I think you hear a voice. It is, but like I said, you think there's a malfunction because it's the sound of like three voices harmonizing, speaking in perfect sync. And I think, you've got cameras in there too, right? It's not just audio. Did we?
Yeah, we have cameras too.
Yeah, double six is you got cameras, baby.
Yeah.
So I think when you turn them on, you can see that these three voices that are speaking in harmony, it is coming from a single person. It is an emissary of the Concordat. They are dressed in these kind of like flowing white robes trimmed with like kind of golden embroidery. They are blue-skinned, kind of amphibious. I imagine they have this kind of like somewhat like fish-like features. I think they have kind of like a big, kind of like dorsal fin running like from the top to the back of their head.
This is not a Vodnoid though.
It's not a Vodnoid. They're not like a frog, right? They are.
This person is physically in the office?
Yes.
Oh.
And I think there's like they've kind of like they haven't snuck in, but they've kind of I think your bugs from in the exterior hallway show that they've not come in through like the main entrances. They have snuck in, and I think there are two kind of guards outside the door who are dressed like Coronata citizens, but I think have the bearing of soldiers. You recognize the military stance. This person is a Thalian. They are a different kind of amphibian species. Like they come from a system of water worlds, and I think there is like it almost looks like a failure on the camera. It looks like there is a shimmer of water over their skin at all times. The robes they wear look slightly damp and like floating in the air around them, orbiting them, held by some fundamental force. There are like pieces of what look like coral, I think. These like kind of like brightly hued. And I think there's maybe even like other like small living things that are kind of like in the sphere around them. And when they speak in a voice that like is three voices at once. There's this kind of harmonizing of multiple voices as they speak. And very quickly, conversation unfolds. This person is identified as Sigil Hayes. They are the representative of the Voice Resplendent, which is the Concordat's sort of diplomatic corps. Or at least for the Lilac Legion's diplomatic corps. They are ambassadors, diplomats, and I think, no one could say for sure spies as well, most likely. And they have this conversation with Braithlight. And I think there's a lot of talking around the actual point that they're trying to make. You know what I mean? They are they're careful to not be specific in this way that like, I think their gaze settles on a place where a camera is at one point, and like there's like a moment of like, do they know? And then their gaze moves on. They don't address it. They continue to speak. And like I said, you're kind of having to like fill in the gaps yourself for this conversation for the things they don't say. But there is a discussion of responsibilities and assumption of leadership. They inquire after a list of counselors who you gather are, with all certainty, hostile to Concordat presence. I think you hear Sigil Hayes say something to the effect, the Commonwealth are pragmatists. Once things are in motion, they can be bargained with over material concerns. It's the ring that we are worried about. It's an ideological rot. It will have to be excised. And you hear them say as well that I mentioned the name earlier, Demeter Pollux, the Primarch of the Council, is too strongly intertwined with the lighthouse keepers, the kind of Coronatus military force that defends the beacon and the walls of Coronatus. they will have to be excised from their current position. There is discussion of like district borders, of checkpoints, of boundaries, inquiries after certain maps. And I think, this conversation goes on for a while, right? It's not, like I said, it is frustratingly vague in some ways, but I think the broader shape becomes clear as it goes on. They are talking with Alloy Braithlight about how to handle a transition of power in Coronatus to Concordat rule and what that will look like in practicalities. And they are relying on Braithlight to act as their agent in the council in the undertaking of this transition. And, I think if you have like specific questions about things that they talk about here, or about like things you might overhear, I'm happy to like delve in. But I think that, the broader substance of what Des is able to uncover from this conversation is that, like, especially knowing what you know about the Night Flyers having assisted the Concordat in smuggling weapons into the city, they are preparing for a kind of takeover or a kind of transition to Concordat rule here. I don't think there's a timetable given. I think that's another frustratingly vague part of this conversation, right? But there is. They are compiling names, maps, lists. They are discussing responsibilities. And there are also like assurances here, right? I think there is Sigil Hayes saying to some effect, there is a preference amongst the Legion that day-to-day governances should be undertaken by those familiar with territories. This is a common practice. We do not seek to disrupt the pulse of the everyday life, but rather to enlighten the populace and guide them towards the higher truth that is the Myriad Way. And it seems, that in exchange for their services, Alloy Braithlight and the Night Flyers more broadly are getting a chance at more power in assisting whatever takeover or plan is being discussed here.
I think, Des hears all that, and then, Sigil leaves, right? And I think Des, hits stop on the recorder and, stamps his cigarette out. And he turns to Carta and he's like, did you hear all that?
Yeah.
I think some people are going to want to hear that.
A lot of people are going to want to hear that.
We need to make some copies. We need to send some up to the higher ups in the ring. And I need to figure out who I can send it to. Who's going to give a damn here in Coronatus about that?
And who in the Commonwealth can we use to make sure that we have some in with them? None of them are going to want to lose the power. So if we can convince them that working on our side is going to be better.
Perhaps an unlikely alliance might be in order.
But you've got it all on record?
We've got it all on record. I'm going to make sure Alloy Braithwaite is hoisted by his own petard, and then we leave in the van.
Got to be one of the worst things to get hoisted by.
I simply would never.
Another person's petard, understandable. Yeah. But my own? No, that's just embarrassing.
I did have to Google what a petard is because I never know.
I don't know what a petard is.
It's a grenade. It's like a little bomb.
Yeah, it's a small bomb made of a metal or wooden box filled with powder.
Why would you get hoisted?
You get lifted. You get blown away.
Hoisted. You get blown up by hoisted
by your
own.
After this call, I'm about to get lifted on my own petard. if you know what I mean.
And so,
sorry, getting hoisted by your own petard is a very funny way to talk about getting too stoned.
Getting scared when you're stoned. Yeah, I got it.
That's a free one, risk takers. Go forth and conquer with that.
I usually call it going Icarus mode. You fly too close to the sun.
And so that is the last of your downtime actions, Des, I believe. Pete, you still have 2 downtime actions, and there's also kind of Rhodes is still on the other side of the world. On the other side of the basin, just not the world. Yeah.
I've got definitely one more, kind of thing, and then I'm I'm enjoying watching Carta and Des step into what it looks like without Rhodes, and I'm imagining Rhodes is probably gone for a while.
Yeah,
presumed maybe dead. I don't exactly know what you guys think.
Like a couple weeks.
Yeah,
a month maybe.
I think timeline wise, with what happened with the cog stuff, and then waiting for this bugging to come to fruition.
I think maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks makes sense. It's a long time that you're out in the desert, right?
Yeah, I think it's getting to that point where it's it crossed the line of oh, they're coming back. He just needs time to blow off some steam to being oh, He's
yeah.
not
Maybe
gonna
he's
come back.
Maybe he's just straight up not ever coming back.
And so maybe we can like get an image here of like, this is like time with Selkirk also, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's talking to you more about the dust moss, like about his theories about it. He's answering your questions.
Yeah, and just to be really clear, Selkirk, his house, not like Yoda, not at all. But I do think there's probably some kind of like training here, right? I think this stuff has kind of been gnawing at Rhodes for a bit, and I imagine this time with Selkirk is, I think, like, if we want to get really kind of in our head about it, I think is like Rhodes is like learning a bit more on like what it means to be a thaumaturge, like what the fundament looks like when wielded, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's like a while. I mean, I have like one more kind of scene here with one of my downtime actions.
Yeah, we can come back to this. I think it's a good transition back to like the valley of Selkirk's like little lair.
And I think maybe we're like still at the like that first kind of meeting, right, where we're kind of sipping our tea, and I think just as I think Rhodes is like adjusting to the dust moss, I think even those kind of like vines and roots maybe are kind of crossing the surface of like this left arm where the stab wound was, and I think I don't know. When we come back to it as they're speaking, I think this is something that's kind of been brewing in Rhodes for a bit, but would probably tell Selkirk the same thing. My killing days are over. I'm done taking lives, save one. Teach me to kill a thaumaturge.
Oh, that's interesting. How do you do it, right? I think, I don't think this is like right after. I think this should be like later, right?
Sure, yeah.
Just to like give a sense of time passing. I think this is out in the like kind of the prairie surrounding, like outside of his like little earthen mound. I think you're out there. You're like
in the moss, right? Like I left the little guys scurrying around.
Yeah, right. You're feeling,
or meditating or something.
Yeah, exactly. You're more ambiently in touch with like, as this has started to grow over like the last week or two, right? I think it is like almost like eaten up the quicksilver to an extent, right? It has like kind of like nourished itself on it as like this dust moss has started to grow and like kind of thrive on Rhodes. And so, yeah, I think, Selkirk is looking at the triops, he's tending to the few triops that are in the field. He looks to you and he says, the substance that your old friend uses is bonded with is an old thing. First era, perhaps before. It is malevolent. It is mercurial. It shifts. It keeps him alive because it wants him. It wants to consume him eventually the way it has so many others. As long as he is connected to it, he is connected to the fundament itself, he will come back for you again and again, Rhodes. He is, Selkirk reaches down and touches, like puts his hand amongst the moss on the ground below. As long as he is connected, it will swallow him up and take him back and spit him out again. If you want to end what he is and what he has become, you will have to isolate him from its connections.
From what? It's everywhere. Throws it left and right. From that place? Is that where you've been?
He shakes his head. I would not step foot into that domain. It is an unpleasant place. It is not a place someone should try and reside. We are not meant to exist for long periods on such a basic level. It is a lower rung of reality, a more structural one. You want him here, and there are ways to nullify that connection, to limit it. I can show you, but it is a cruel thing to sever something's connection to the fundament. Unnatural.
No crueler than the burning of paradise.
He nods. He doesn't sigh, but I think there's like a certain resignation here that this is like what you want to do. But I think he does say, there is a greater conflict here to worry about than your rivalry with an old friend. Don't lose sight of the war for the sake of a battle.
Wars are for young men.
I think, you've been with him a while here, right? You guys have had more talks than just this. You've been together for a while. I think he would make a request of you now, right? I will show you the techniques necessary to try and disconnect Hyacinth, to make him vulnerable. But soon, I need to see the machine.
As do I. Why not join us? Are you content to watch as this planet's torn asunder?
He shakes his head. I do no such thing. And I think again, he looks around, at this this prairie of this dust moss. I am growing here the seeds for the plant that will choke out the concordat.
I think this is, like Rhodes, I think, like, whatever, flexes this arm here with the dust moss growing. And he's like, well, then together we can bloom. Or, together Imber will bloom.
Not just Imber, the network, all of it. But we start here. And I think, you know what? I think that, he is going to give you schematics, right? It's like he takes you back in. And he's pulling through chests full of different it's like a treasure trove of concordat materials, right? Like things he's stolen from the archives when he left. And I think amongst them there are schematics that are I imagine it's a holographic emitter in the shape of a sealed scroll. But they are schematics for modifying a weapon to strike not just at a target's physical form, but to sever its fundamental connections.
This is alchemical schematic,
right? Yeah, it's somewhere between a schematic and a grimoire, right? It is half magic, half science in this way that the concordat always is, right? When applied to a weapon, will give you something that can sever its connection to the fundament, at least temporarily, which is the thing that you'll have to do to be able to end Hyacinth fully.
Is that one of my downtime actions then? Is it undergoing a long-term project?
I don't think that it's a downtime action. I think that's just a part of talking with this man. I think modifying a weapon would be the manufacture downtime action. I think would be, you could use that now. Mm-hmm. You have a blueprint to be able to modify your weapons or modify a weapon to be able to do this thing to Hyacinth.
Yeah, okay. I'll start one. I'm torn. I have a couple cool options.
Yeah. I mean, so this is the manufacture downtime ability, which can use either engineer or interface as appropriate. I think probably engineer here is what is appropriate. And I think, I'm looking at these rules. So this is a modification. This is not a brand new crafting. So I think that this is a tier 3 modification. Because you guys have a workshop upgrade, you will get +1 of the quality on whatever this roll is.
Okay, nice. That's paying dividends.
But here's the thing. I don't think Rhodes can work on it at Abel's.
Oh, yeah.
Abel doesn't have the gear here to do that, I think. Mm-hmm. Right? But there is a workshop at the low tower.
Well, I've got the schematic, which is pretty good. The plan of a long-term project. How many ticks on the clock was it for that project? Do you know?
So it's not ticks on a clock. If you're just modifying a thing, it is a single roll.
Okay.
But I think that you need to, like I said, I think you need access to the workshop to be able to actually properly, distill, right, this quicksilver into a more mutable orichalcum substrate to inlay these etchings to kind of modify the circuitry of something to imbue it with this kind of anti-fundamental property.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to then just use one of these downtime actions to cut loose here, or do I have to have a pilot?
You have to have a pilot to cut loose.
Damn, then I guess it's time to head back.
Yeah. But all of the things I think you need to do left are, I think cutting loose, you have to have another pilot with you. You can't relieve stress alone.
I think this actually looks like in fiction anyway, time with Selkirk has been great, but I think Rhodes maybe feels a bit lonely.
I think that, I don't think Selkirk is necessarily, he's interested in bringing you on board to this project, right? He wants to utilize the lattice on Imber to fight the Concordat, to use the dust moss to kind of subvert the machine on Imber. But I don't think he's fun to be around a lot of the time, probably, right?
He's weird. He's been out here for kind of a long time.
Yeah, he's a man who spends most of his day, I think, speaking to and tending to the plants here, right? I think he forgets for long stretches that there's another person with him.
It doesn't seem that weird.
He's been digging a big hole in the backyard.
His girlfriend's been gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, how long? Yeah, does he have a bunch of aquariums and kind of plants and talking to his pets?
And I think there's a point too where I think again he kind of emphasizes not that he tells you to leave, but the next step for both of us, you need to reclaim the redshift, and I need to see it. Bring it back to me. Do whatever you need to do. You've got the tools you need to finish your fight, to resolve whatever long-standing issue you have with Hyacinth. But past that, bring the redshift to me, and we can take the next step towards truly stopping the Concordat.
You have to come with me. I don't have the time.
The work here is too important. Find the time. There's nothing more important than this.
Yeah, I guess he looks down at like the dust moss. I'll see you soon.
I'm Coming Home by Murder by Death starts playing.
Yeah. Boys Are Back in Town starts playing.
Yeah, I think that's like, long, I don't know, a montage of the long road back home.
Got a dust cutter that was left to you by Cygnus. So I imagine it's on the bike. You know, I think there's like a newness of sensation in your arm where the dust moss has taken root. You can feel it's like, I remember a few years ago reading about like, it was like biohackers in Pittsburgh who were implanting magnets in their fingertips, like encased in silicone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were big on that.
Yeah,
I think about that all the time.
You wanted to do it. I do think about it all the time too.
But like one of those people wrote about how when they were walking over power lines, they could feel them, or like when they were walking over subway lines, they could like feel the resonance in their finger from the magnet. And I think something like that is happening with Rhodes, right? You can almost, as you're moving over the orichalcum lattice that underlays the surface of Imber, you can kind of like feel as you pass over it, these like minute changes in like the sensation of the dust moss. It's this sort of gradual realization that like you have sensation where the moss is now. Your field of senses have expanded so that this thing is now to some degree integrated into your sensory apparatus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably clicks into place, right? Like this is the same thing the redshift's like extension picks up, right? Like the same thrumming kind of heartbeat of Imber. I like it.
And so that's what you're feeling as we close here. On this shot of Rhodes riding across the dusty landscape of Imber, headed east, the horizon marked by the looming monolith of the beacon, marking your eventual destination, the city of Coronatus, and beneath it, the low tower.